Welcome back to Gerodynamics. Okay, so this is not a political video. It doesn't really go in any classification specifically. I'll figure out something as far as what list to put it under. I'm talking about inclusion, representation in movies and video games. So here is my take on it. We What I see people getting upset about, and this is often, misinterpreted, because on purpose, I would imagine, but misinterpreted to just be, bigoted racists, want only white people in movies or video games, which is obviously not true. So here's what I see. I see a lot of people getting upset that their favorite characters are being changed, and there's not a good reason for it. There's not a good story reason for it. They want to say that the good reason is to diversify and to make movies and video games more inclusive, that sort of thing. But in the video game, in the movie, there's zero explanation for these changes. There's, let's say Lord of the Rings on Amazon Prime, and they had dark skinned elves, dark skinned dwarfs. Elves, okay, you could say that they're surface dwellers. They, for the most part, you could have wide cultural diversity in the elven population, just like you do in the human population. Give us that explanation. Say it. Show it. Don't just be all like, well, here they are. You know, the dwarven population was a little harder to accept because dwarven populations, they live underground. They're not evolving to adapt to a lot of sunlight, so it doesn't quite make as much sense. But again, these are all fantasy. They're fantasy worlds. I've had videos kind of talking about that before. I'm fine with it. My biggest problem is that they don't give a real good explanation, and it doesn't really go along with the source material. And I do prefer it when they stay more true to the source material. But it's not the end of the world. Historical figures, it just drives me nuts. I don't understand, like, why you would change a historical figure to be a different race or gender or anything else. They are who they were in real life. So it doesn't happen nearly as often. That's good because it's more of a violation, I do believe. It just doesn't make sense. And then, I can see, when you have just a movie and it's just a fictional character, say, let's see. Well, The Little Mermaid's a little different because, you could say, well, mermaids are underwater and also not getting a lot of sun. But if I remember correctly, it's been a long time since little young Jeremy watched The Little Mermaid. I believe that there were, mermaids of different races in the original movie too. I think so. I could be wrong on that one. So if you change Ariel's race, and also one of the things that's not really mentioned, I think they changed the king's race too. He became, so this is weird. The king, was I believe a Latin actor. Oh, who was it? I'm not remembering. I remember when they were talking about it being oh, I'm so bad with names sometimes. And I love him. I think he's great. I want to see definitely more stuff with him. But, anyways, I'm not remembering names, so I'm just going to move on. So I could see, there being some questions about the race switch in that. But I believe that that was more acceptable. It's just, this is not the character people grew up with. And so that's kind of weird. And then here's where my argument comes into play is like the actual argument saying you want to see yourself represented in in the cartoons that you watch. The the person who said this, the actress, what was her name? Halle Berry. She's like not the older Halle Berry, but a younger, different, slightly different spelling of the name Halle Berry. Anyways, she was trying to say that she didn't have a cartoon to look up to, but when she would have been growing up, the Princess and the Frog was more relevant than the Little Mermaid. The Princess and the Frog would have been a cartoon that was newer. I may have came out before she was born also, but Little Mermaid definitely was older than that. So to say that you weren't represented when there was a newer cartoon that would should represent you, the main actress or the main character was African American. The whole story is based around a fairy tale or a story, from that world, as opposed to, the Little Mermaid, which is more of a Norwegian, I think, Norwegian story. Um, it makes more sense. So for her to say that she didn't see herself represented until this, and that just makes no sense. But that's what I want to see more. I want to see more. Um, I want to see more inclusive content because a lot of our white history, our white folklore, our white stories are played out. They're boring. We've seen them already. I want to see stories that come from the cultures of Africa. I want to see stories that come from the cultures of Asia, cultures that come from South America. Give us these stories with appropriate actors and actresses playing these stories. When Black Panther came out, obviously almost everybody on the cast was going to be African, wasn't going to be white actors. It just made sense. It was a story of a culture based in Africa, right? Who hated that movie? No one hated that movie. Everybody loved that. Well, not everybody, but most people loved that movie. Um, no one complained about that. It was great to get that sort of story coming out of a different culture. I would love to see the mythologies of African tribes show up more in movies and cartoons and video games. Asian cultures, I would love to see that. But no, we keep getting rehashes of our Western cultures, our European cultures, our North American, United States cultures. Those sorts of things keep getting played out over and over and over again in movies. So I get the fact that you would want to see those become more inclusive because you're not getting to see these other things. Um, but I think we would all be much more entertained if we had the other things as opposed to just rehashing stories we've already seen and just slapping a new actor or actress in there and saying, "Yep, look, it's brand new, it's diverse." No, come on, that's not what we want to see. So, you know, you're seeing this a lot in movies. Video games, it's a really hot topic right now. There's a company going around trying to make everything more diverse and inclusive. There's actually multiple companies, but there's one big company. I'm not going to say the name because that's not really something that I want to get involved with. Um, but they're changing the games and they're changing movies, um, and not making them better. And then when people don't want to see these things, they don't want to see the rehashed stories with slap a new actor actress in there. It's people don't want to see these, and then they blame people and call them bigots and racists and all these different things rather than saying, well, why didn't they want to see this? We don't want to see it because it's not new. It's not taking into consideration the actual source material, and it's not giving us something new and interesting to actually enjoy. Not to mention the fact that the storytelling, the writing has gotten terrible, the directing has gotten terrible, the CGI has gotten terrible, the graphics have gotten terrible. Everything is not improving the way that it should. The stories aren't worth watching. That's where people are upset. I don't understand this whole thing just blaming it on people being like saying, "Hey, this isn't for you, but if you don't go see it, then you're a bigot." No, you just said it's not for me. So okay, it's not for me. I'm not going to watch it. Don't get upset that I didn't watch it. Um, and then here's my final take on it. As you can see from the beard here, um, I am a ginger. I'm a redhead, kind of. So when I was born, if you look at my baby pictures, bright red hair. It did tone down as I grew older, more of a brownish, reddish brown hair. I do have hazel eyes. I have greenish eyes, very pale skin. So that's me, right? I am a ginger, not full on, not like not the Ed Sheeran version, or some of those others, that are a little bit more ginger than I am. They get more ginger cred than I do. But I do consider myself a ginger, and and I keep seeing this, and if it keeps happening, I mean, it, you're the bigot. You keep getting rid of the gingers. You keep getting rid of the redhead characters. All right, I'm just gonna say it. This keeps happening. I've seen a recent image of all the characters who have been swapped out for different races, and a lot of the time it's not your blonde hair, blue eyes. It's your red hair, green eyes, and I'm just sick and tired of it. I want to see me in my movies and my video games. Speaking of that, give me some fat dudes. I want some fat dudes in my movies and my video games. But so think about it from that perspective. You want to see yourself in movies and video games, or at least that's what they're telling us, that other people want to see themselves in movies and video games. So, well, so do I. So does everybody. So if you just keep replacing all of the people and not creating these new characters and new cultures and new mythologies and those sorts of things, yeah, we're obviously there's gonna be some pushback. It's your own argument. We want to see ourselves in these things. If the story comes from my culture, if it's an Irish story, they darn well better be gingers playing these characters. Okay, St. Patrick is a ginger. That's a whole different story altogether. Because I think he came over from England. Anyways, if I see any stories about druids in Ireland, they better be gingers. Darn it! Don't you be changing brave on me. All right, everybody, let me know what you think. Put your comments down below. It's really not that serious, but come on. All right, everybody, take care. Have a good day.